Well, good morning, everybody. Here we are again.
Welcome the chair of the House Republican Conference, Congresswoman Lisa McClain.
For those of you who don't know, I'm 4'11", but I tell everybody I play big.
Lisa McClain of Michigan.
Lisa McClain.
Congresswoman Lisa McClain is with us.
I work hand in hand in coordination with the White House to make sure we are all singing from the same hymnal.
She's tough. Lisa McClain, she's tough and good. She's a good one. She's a real leader.
Let's look at what we can get done in the time frame we have and recognize there is real urgency to get these premium tax credits extended.
We want to work on affordability. We want to work on bringing premiums down.
Hi, everybody. Wow, this is a packed room. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Mariana Sotomayor. I'm a congressional reporter here at the Washington Post. I often run into Congresswoman Lisa McClain in the House of Representatives. She, of course, is the highest ranking woman in Congress right now. And the reason why is because House Republicans chose her to be their conference chair this term. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm going to give you $20 for putting together that nice video.
That wasn't me. That's our crew out there. There's so much to talk to you about. But what I wanted to start off with, obviously you are a woman in a position of power, but there's many women in our lives who actually kind of push us to get to where we are, who have influenced us. You obviously had a career. This is your kind of your second act, politics is. You were successful in the business sector. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was your daughter who ultimately convinced you to run for office. What was that like?
Yeah. So I have 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls, and I'm Italian. We do Sunday dinner. And if you don't come home at 4 o'clock on Sunday dinner, you're out of the will. It's really simple. But that's kind of my time to hold court, right? And kind of talk, right? And I do. And I was complaining about something, I'm sure. And my daughter says, well, Mom, you can either be part of the problem or part of the solution. She was using my words against me, right? But really, she's like, be part of the solution, right? Yeah. And I went to bed that night and I was still kind of mad at her. And I said to my husband, Mike, I said, you know what, why wouldn't I? You know, our business is in good shape, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, go to bed, honey. And then 2 weeks later, Paul Mitchell, who had the seat before me, decided not to run. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a sign. Yeah. So she really encouraged me. But I have a ton of support from my friends, my family. It's been great. I love it. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, you don't, we share something in common, which is you kind of have to be patient to be up there on Capitol Hill. Long days, a lot of votes. Who knows who's trading barbs with who, a lot of agenda setting on your front. Did you feel prepared when you came to Capitol Hill based on your business experience? And I ask it that way because business traditionally has been pretty male dominated. Capitol Hill, there's many more men than women. However, Republican women in particular, it's the largest class in U.S. history. Yeah. You're often the only woman in a room with leadership. What's that like? How do you make sure your voice is heard, your position's heard, or you stand up sometimes and maybe even to the speaker or the president and say, hey, I'm thinking about this a little differently?
Yeah. First of all, I love what I do, and I wouldn't do it unless I loved it. I mean, that is just, you shouldn't do anything unless you enjoy it. Life is just way too short. And I don't look at myself as a woman in a man's world, but it kind of reality is through business, especially I was in the financial services sector, and the financial services sector is pretty much male dominated as well. I try to use that to my advantage, quite frankly, is I don't always have to speak, but when I speak, it's usually, pretty valuable. So I think my business experience and my business background prepared me for Congress, kind of, in that respect. Right. So, the advantage is I'm 4'11", too. I usually get to stand in front. That's an advantage, right? You got to take what God gives you and take using it as an advantage. But it's I like it. It's enjoyable. And what I've found is if you don't have to say something every single solitary time, right? We all know who those people are. You get a little bit more, people listen differently. People listen differently. So, yeah, it's, you got to use it to your advantage, I think, sometimes.
So now, as chairwoman, conference chair, your priority is essentially setting the message, trying to figure out, what is the White House saying, as you mentioned in a previous speech. We all have to sing from the same hymnal. How do you get the White House and House Republicans, and they're very opinionated House Republicans?
Super easy. All the time. Super easy. I mean, our president, he doesn't tweet much, right? Nothing crazy. Yeah, and I will tell you this, like I'll come out of a meeting or whatever, and the reporters will be around and like, did you see President Trump's tweet? No, I honestly didn't see his tweet, right? Yeah. He is he's very active. And I'm trying to put my best political speech, package on this as I possibly can. Yes, he's very active, and our conference is very diverse and very vocal. So at times it is like herding cats, if we're going to be honest. But I think if you break it down to the core issues and don't personalize it and put an optimistic bend with a little hope on it, I think the message is really easy to sell. And you take a look at where we're at right now with the tax credits, right? I know this is a dirty word right now, but bipartisanship, right? Both sides truly want it. I want to believe this. Forget about the extremes, right? But there is an appetite to fix the affordable health care or I don't think there's anyone on either side that would say, oh my gosh, the healthcare system that we have right now, it is just awesome. No one's saying that. I mean, I haven't heard anyone. In fact, we did polling, and I think 6% of America says that. So we know that there needs to be reform. How do we package it in a way that we can actually get something done? That is probably the biggest frustration between business and Congress. Is I managed 700 people before, 700 salespeople. But when I said, here's the direction we're going, they just all went. It's not exactly the same up here. So you got to craft a message that works.
Right. So this next endeavor you mentioned, obviously, is healthcare. You also said you don't always read every single Trump truth. But here's a good example.
No, I always read it. Always.
The president truth earlier this week that the only health care that he would support or approve is actually sending money directly back to the people, not insurance companies. He said also, Congress, don't waste your time and energy on anything else. When you get a directive like that, you guys, House Republicans, I know, talked earlier this week about the path forward on, I think you guys are calling it the Unaffordable Care Act. How do you address that? I mean, that's a good example of, okay, the president's saying, this is what I would like to see. You guys embarking on these conversations. Where do you fit in trying to package it all?
I feel like my experience with my 4 kids have served me very well in this role, because you all know if you have children or even nieces and nephews, you got to kind of manage those relationships, and that's what we're doing, right? And that's what my job is. And how I do that is, one, I listen, and I think most importantly, you got to let people get things off their chest. And if you listen to them long enough, believe it or not, people start very far apart. But if you truly, truly listen, they really come back and they're pretty close together by the time you get there. The key is, and I thank my mother for this, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, use it accordingly. So the key, I really think, is if we can listen and listen long enough and truly listen, not just humor you to listen.
Right.
We really are saying the same things, because the issue is it's the premium. Let's just talk about healthcare for a second. Yeah. It's the premiums with the healthcare. is a big deal, right? Making sure that there is health care is a big deal. Okay, we're going to disagree on the radical fringe stuff, right? And both sides have it. The right has it, the left. Okay. But on the core principle of health care, if you take the media and you take the microphone out of your way, believe it or not, we are way more aligned than you think. So in my opinion, let's focus on that. And really what I think the president is trying to say, and God knows I don't want to speak for the president, is we have an issue, we got to deal with it. So let's deal with it. And he's trying to push us. I mean, love President Trump or hate President Trump, love President Biden or hate President Biden. I hope there's not hate on either side, but they move at different speeds. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's bad, because there's positives and negatives to both of them, but they just move at different speeds. President Trump moves 90 miles an hour, and sometimes it's like, whoa, 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 just. But that's the reality in which we live, so let's deal with it. I'm not going to complain about it. I ain't changing it, right? So how do I deal within the constraints that I have?
So a constraint, maybe not a constraint, a reality next year is the midterm elections. Obviously, the balance of the House's power is a big question that's going to be put before voters. Remember, almost a decade ago, healthcare was front and center. The Affordable Care Act was front and center before the 2018 midterms. There were a lot of votes to try and repeal it. As you, again, as this messenger kind of thinking ahead, staying united on policy principles, do you fear that history could be repeating itself? Possibly, if you guys are not able to get on the same page, find a healthcare solution, put it forward, could it possibly end up embarrassing a number of vulnerable Republicans?
I mean, anything's possible. I think you have to really answer this question. Do we really want to honestly work on healthcare? You got to ask that question. And healthcare right now, from what I've had 3 briefings on it from AEI, and I still am scratching the surface. What I'm noticing with healthcare is there's not one quick, simple fix. Because if there was, I can share with you, it would have been done by now over the past 10 years. Where I'm celebrating right now is, for the first time in a long time, both sides agree that Obamacare, it's not really working so swell. Okay. Let that sit in for 1 second. We're not saying, oh, well, this is a Democratic policy. The Democrats did Obamacare and it stinks now. Okay, there might be some, but really, both sides are saying, hey, it's not working. Can we fix it? Now so that's number 1. You can't fix a problem until you admit that there's a problem, right? Now, how do we truly fix it? Do we want to fix it for political reasons, or do we truly want to fix it, right? And I believe, and I'm an optimist by nature, I truly believe there is enough compassion on both sides to leave the politics out of it and truly work on fixing it. Now, let's go back to reality. Are we going to be able to undo everything over the past 10 years in the next 4 weeks? No. I mean, I wish, right? If I had that silver bullet, man, I might be president. Who knows, right? I don't have it. Nobody has it, or I think it would have been done by now. What scares me about me, is we have a tendency to take this pendulum from here to here, and we have wild swings, right? With something as important as healthcare, I don't think we can afford these wild swings. So I think what you'll see is smaller fixes along the way that will lead to eventually reform, because we're not going to reform healthcare in 4 weeks. I mean, I'd love to be awesome, but I also live in reality too. So that's what I see, but I really see, if we can leave our politics, so to speak, at the door, I really think we are in a spot to fix it, because I think we're closer together, because for the first time in I don't know how long, both sides are admitting healthcare's not working. Yeah. That's different.
It is different. I wanted to ask you about affordability, and the reason why is because, talking of both parties kind of being on the same page, both parties say that that is the issue for the midterms. Obviously saw that in 2024 as well, voters saying.
We just saw it.
Yeah. And earlier this month as well. Democrats obviously saying they won in different races across the country because their candidates were talking about that issue. Talk to me about how Republicans are going to be discussing this. And I also wanted to mention specifically on the issue of tariffs. I mean, I've heard from some of those swing district Republicans, vulnerable Republicans in your own conference that they're weighing, if the question votes come up on tariffs in the near future, like they may break with the president on this because this is such an issue that's front of mind back home.
So you want to talk about the tariffs first or affordability?
Tariffs, and then we can go into the affordability.
So I think tariffs have done their job. I really do. I think tariffs, this is my opinion, tariffs were a tool in the tool shed to bring fair trade and better deals to America. And again, get the politics out of it. It worked, if that was your goal. Bring manufacturing jobs back, level the playing field. I think that has worked. Look at the amount of investments that President Trump and it's a tool that we've gotten from the tariffs. At what point in time have the tariffs done their job that we can settle in now? I think that's where we're at right now. Is I believe as a business owner, and what I hear from my constituents, both in my district and around, when I travel, is just tell me what the tariffs are going to be now. We need certainty, right? That is, so you see sometimes it's like, ooh, I'd rather have a bad deal and know what it is than have the uncertainty. So to me, I think the tariffs have worked. The tariff has done their job. I mean, thank God we had the tariffs or we wouldn't have been able to pay WIC. Right? That gets kind of lost in the shuffle, during the shutdown. But it's a tool in the tool shed to level the playing field. And I think it's done that. Now, how much more valuable are there? And I think that's what people are, the president and the administration is really assessing right now.
That kind of leads into how do you message all of that, explain that to voters who really are now starting polling showing, blaming the Trump administration, not the Biden administration, for all of these economic issues.
Yeah. One, just tell the truth. I mean, that's crazy.
It's a little hard to do for some people.
Well, I learned a lot of lessons from my mom, and I hear her on my shoulder is like, just tell the truth, Lise. And that is the honest to God's truth is I think the tariffs have done their job. They worked. We brought investments in. We got trade deals. We leveled the playing fields. Okay, now how much longer do they would go? How much? Because we are getting into the affordability issue. And I can sit there and talk to you about, well, under Joe Biden, inflation was 9%, and under President Donald Trump, it's almost 3%. And, cost of gas is coming down, and heat's coming down, and coal's coming down. Okay, but I shop at the same grocery stores you all shop at. Right? And those prices are going up. You're right. And we can sit here or we can do something about it. And I think during with the working families tax cut, that was a little bit of a bridge. I think the whole reason why we wanted to get that done by July 4th and signed in July 4th and make it retroactive was to help relieve some of that issue because it is going to take time. We have to get less regulation. Look at the amount of money. I have a compliance, in my old life, I have a compliance business. We have got to get rid of this burdensome regulation. I think that's used, but nothing happens overnight. It doesn't. It takes time. Okay, well, people, it's like, okay, it's time. We got to have, I appreciate the gas as low as that it's been in 4 years, but what about my grocery bill? And they're not wrong. And that's why I think you can't fix a problem until you first admit there's a problem. So let's work on the problem. And I think that's exactly what we're doing. Now, again, I'm an optimist by nature, so let's work on it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that, oh my gosh, groceries are super cheap. I shop at the same grocery store as you do. Right? I got 4 kids. I still do Sunday dinner. right? But we are committed to bringing it down, and we know that that's what we have to do.
I know we only have a couple of minutes left, and I have a zillion more questions.
Sorry.
It's okay, you're good.
I'm talking too much.
I wanted to ask you about, obviously, messaging, big part of your job. There's traditional channels, and now we're seeing newer channels. A number of conservative influencers, particularly Charlie Kirk, did bring in younger voters. I know you mentioned shortly after his death that you were struck by just how much your own daughter was struck by that moment. How are you thinking about your own messages coming from Capitol Hill, making sure that those conservative influencers that people are listening to, or it might just come up on their feed, kind of using them as channels? Is that kind of the future of political messaging and communication?
Yeah, I'm old. Let's just start with that. I'm old. Messaging has changed, right? Legacy media is still there, but I think there's a lack of trust sometimes, and people are searching for different media outlets. If you look at the young people, and that's with the unfortunate death of Charlie Kirk, I saw that very, very differently through my daughter's eyes. It hit her very, very differently because that's who she connected to, right? And I think it's incumbent upon us to give people something to follow. And if you give them a positive message to follow, people will follow it. If you give them a message of hate, people will follow that too. So I think it's incumbent upon us to give them a positive, forward-looking message to follow. And it's not through the traditional channels. And who's going to be our legacy? It's going to be my daughter. It's going to be my grandson. I mean, things have changed.
Yeah, and they continue to change pretty rapidly.
And we have to adapt and adjust to it.
Yeah.
It changes hard.
I wanted to ask you separately, we're obviously here at Washington Post headquarters. The president earlier this week did have the Saudi Crown Prince at the White House, and he essentially said that he did nothing wrong. The Saudi Crown Prince did nothing wrong in relations to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, who is, of course, an opinion writer here. What do you make of that statement, especially since U.S. intelligence has shown the opposite?
Yeah. First of all, that is extremely tragic, what happened. And I don't think anybody can deny that or denounce that. And I don't care on what side of the aisle you're on. Whether it's that, whether it's the Uyghurs in China, whether it's what happens in around the world. We just, wouldn't it be better if we just didn't have that? But here's the situation that we live in. I think what the president's trying to do, and I'm not trying to speak for the president, I'm talking as Lisa McClain. It's a really ugly neighborhood over there. And I think what he's trying to do is bring peace in the Middle East. If you look at, we got the hostages home, I think that's a positive. We got several peace deals and ended quite a few wars. I think that's all positive. The problem is you can focus on all the positives, and then there's this one negative that just stands out, and it's hard to look past that, right? Because that's what you're focused on, and I think violence and I think hate is never ever the answer. It might fix it short term, but long term it just doesn't solve anything because we still have the underlying problem that you need to deal with. And I think that's just unfortunate. I really, really do. Just imagine what we would have if we didn't have any wars. I mean, we could feed everybody if we didn't. Look at what we spend on war. Look at what we spend on hate. Imagine, we could feed people, we could house people if we didn't have that. It's really easy for me to judge while I'm sitting over here sitting on your nice white couch, and I'm not in the middle of it. Thank God. I thank God every day that I'm not in the middle of it, but we got to do the right thing at the end of the day, and I think we got to bring peace, whether it's to the Middle East, whether it's Russia, Ukraine. I mean, we are the leader in the world right now. We have to act like it, and I think I commend people who are trying to bring peace, and I think President Trump is one of those people that are trying to do that, and he's done it.
Before I let you go, I want to circle back to the beginning of our conversation. For those people who are considering a second career, what's your advice?
do what you love. I mean, seriously, do what you love. Because it is, when you're sitting up here in my position, you get judged each and every day, right? I could do 100 things right, but I would say one thing that you don't agree with, and all of a sudden it's like your opinion goes from here to here, and then you all get on, the social media, and it's like, oh my gosh, she's this, she's that. I mean, you got that keyboard courage, right? That's what I call it, anyways. There's something to be said for actually getting in the fight and getting judged, right?
Yeah,
you better love what you do, because if you're in my job, everybody takes a swing at you. And they don't even need to take a swing at your face, right? They just do it behind your back, right on that. Yeah. Okay, great. I mean, the amount of death threats I've gotten, the amount of death threats my children has gotten. My 79-year-old mother lives with me, who's awesome, by the way. People are going to come to my house and take her out. It's like, really? Okay. If you don't like what I'm doing, then run against me. Oh, but that would mean that you can't be the judger now. Now you get judged, and that's a whole different story. You better have some thick skin, but you better truly love what you do. And I absolutely love what I do. And I'm not perfect. Don't tell my husband that, because I am perfect. I'm always right. That's why we have a good marriage. But I say that this is the best job. Other than being a mom to my 4 kids, this is the best job I've ever had. And I have a lot of freedom because I don't need the job. And I really want to make the world a better place. My kids will be okay, but I don't know if my grandkids will be okay. And like my daughter said at the very beginning, you can either be part of the problem and complain about it, or you can get in the fight and actually try to do something about it. So if you're willing to get in the fight and actually try to do something about it, there is no better place to be than here.
Congresswoman, Madam Chair, thank you so much
Oh,
for
you are
joining us
welcome.
today. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thanks, everybody, for being
Thank
here
you.
today. More programming to come.